So today we're going to be reading 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verses 9 through 10. And he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weaknesses. Therefore, most gladly, I would rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." So Paul is saying a lot, okay? So he is talking about his thorn in the flesh. There was something that was bothering him of some type of situation or magnitude or person that was considered a thorn in his flesh. So it was probably irritating, annoying, uncomfortable for Paul, and he pleaded with God that God would remove it from him, whatever this thorn in the flesh was. But God said no. God said no. And he also told Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." So it's important for us as we go through our thorn in the fleshes that we remember that God's grace is sufficient for us. When we say sufficient, we mean enough. God's grace is enough. Now let's break down what the grace of God truly is in the most simplest of terms, how I define. Grace is God's unmerited, undeserved favor exercised toward sinful man. God is giving to us who are undeserving something that we don't deserve. Every single day, and I learned this through my personal life, we have a bank of mercy and we have a bank full of grace. You know, it's filled to capacity. It is our choice whether or not we will utilize mercy and grace. It's our choice that whether we're going to utilize the grace, the unmerited favor of God in our lives. It's our choice. It's our choice to decide. And I remember one time I was really struggling at work. I absolutely hate my job. And I remember just waking up and praying to God. And he told me that you're trying to do this on your own. You know, you're trying to solve this, and that's why you're left empty. Because I'm physically exhausted by trying to muster up enough courage or enough strength on my own to get through each work day. And I was left at there every single day, physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted from work. And I remember God told me, he said, "My grace is sufficient for you." And I remember breaking down at that moment because I'm like, my Lord and my God, your grace is sufficient. Your grace is enough. Why am I using my strength? Why am I using my efforts when your grace is there? Your mercy and your grace is full every morning. It's there for me to utilize. So I started utilizing the grace of God to get through every situation, every work day. And I promise you, I was never left emotionally, physically, or spiritually empty after every workday, because the grace of God has been and will always be sufficient for each and every one of us. No matter what situation we face, God's grace will always be sufficient for us. Let us rely on the sufficiency of God's grace in everything, that we may be revitalized and cared for as God has purposed, because God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. His strength is on display when we are weak. He wants to be glorified. He deserves to be glorified because there is no one else like him. And like Paul said, now because of this, because of God's revealed will for him, that he must go through his infirmities and things that discomfort him, that God is glorified in it. He said, now I take pleasure. Now he takes pleasure in his infirmities and his persecutions and his trials and his reproaches and his needs, because God is glorified, because for Christ's sake, when Paul is weak, then he is strong. Let us also reflect that as well. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video and comment below and share your thoughts. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.